Despite advances in industry, agriculture remained America's basic occupation. Like the revolution in industry, the switch from hand labor to mechanized labor marked the revolution in agriculture. By 1870, the reaper, thresher, steel plow, and combine had encouraged farming in the rugged prairies west of the Mississippi. To feed the growing population, settlers pushed west to cultivate new lands, due in part to the Homestead Act of 1862. The Homestead Act promoted the settlement of publicly owned lands in the Great Plains in either of two ways. For a $10 fee, land was given in 160-acre parcels to anyone who would live on or farm the land for 5 years. Or settlers could buy the land outright for $1.25 per acre. By 1870, migrants flowed west from Kentucky, Missouri, and Illinois at the rate of over 5,000 wagons per month. But crop yields were low to the 500,000 families who claimed homestead land due to light rainfall and arid conditions. In response to this hardship, a new method called dry farming was developed, which required that the fields be left fallow every other year. This allowed the dry soil to store up moisture and nutrients for the following year's crop. These frontier farmers discovered that wheat was an ideal crop for dry farming, and by 1900, the plains had become one of the greatest wheat-producing regions in the world. But farmers faced many hardships. For pioneer farmers, neighbors were few, water was scarce, and families faced brutal winter blizzards and intense summer heat. The dreaded summer dust storm might erase a season's labor, and swarms of locusts could wipe out entire crops. In some treeless plains areas, families lived in houses made of sod or Nebraska marble to insulate themselves against the extreme changes in temperature. Between 1860 and 1890, the nation's population more than doubled, but the American farmer rose to the challenge, growing enough grain, cotton, and corn, and raising enough beef and pork to not only supply the growing population, but to create a surplus as well. By 1890, the first successful gasoline-powered tractors were in use, enabling farmers to meet urban demand. Each successful farm produced enough food to feed 5 people in 1850. 40 years later, those same farms could feed 15 people, largely through the use of more sophisticated and modern equipment. Along with these conveniences came problems unique to modern development. By 1890, overproduction had begun to occur, leading to a glut of produce on the world market. Inevitably, prices plummeted. With increasing demand, shipping rates were steadily rising, and by 1877, it took fully half of gross sales to pay the exorbitant freight charges. Overwhelmed by this predicament, 80% of homestead farms failed by 1900. Most never completed their 5-year residency requirement.